Earlier today, I was speaking to some friends of mine in Australia. They live in Melbourne, which is part of the state of Victoria, which has had a significant upsurge in COVID-19 cases over the last few weeks. The state government has now declared a state of disaster in Melbourne. This means a curfew between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. If you're caught outside during that period, you'll face a hefty instant fine. Exercise is limited to 1 hour a day during non-curfew time, and you're not allowed to travel more than 5 kilometres from your home. This is pretty tough, given that some suburbs of Melbourne don't even have a park within 5 kilometres from their home. They also expect that 250,000 jobs will be lost in Melbourne as a result of these actions. This is to go on for 6 weeks. Wow! Imagine if you're forced to be stuck inside an apartment for that length of time with 2 or 3 young children. Then think about the government response when asked about people in self-isolation needing fresh air. The state premier had a solution when interviewed on TV. It was, open the windows. It's anyone's guess how much mental illness this lockdown will trigger off through depression, or how many suicides will happen, or an increase in family violence. I really feel for those who are affected. So I got to thinking, just how serious is the risk? Is it worth all these problems that a state of disaster will generate? I figured it would be interesting to look at some hard data as to how bad the situation is. So I started by reviewing official government data. I've posted the link below. Now have a look at this chart. As you can see, there's been no fatalities of anyone under the age of 20 and none under the age of 30, and just a few between 30 and 60, even though that group represents 80% of those who tested positive. I'm sure that this figure is actually much higher, as most people are asymptomatic and it would not have been tested. Here are more detailed charts about the infections and deaths from which the previous chart was prepared. Now let's put this data into perspective. Even annualized, COVID-19 wouldn't get near the top 20 deaths. Here are some other figures below to give more context. Heart disease is still the biggest loser on this chart. Diabetes is really understated, as many of the other conditions listed here are brought on by diabetes. It also doesn't list other things such as suicide, which last year was 3,128 and is likely to be more this year due to the lockdowns and economic hardship. Now, here is another risk of death that is up there with heart disease, which you hardly ever hear about: death through medical errors. Last year in Australia, there were as many as 18,000 unnecessary deaths and more than 50,000 permanent injuries due to medical error. Given that countries are prepared to shut down economies and destroy some people's lives to save lives, based on the data I have presented, should we also shut down hospitals to save those 18,000 lives and 50,000 disabilities? I know that this is a facetious question, a silly one, because hospitals and their staff play a valuable part in our society, and my raising this question is no way degrading the excellent work that they do. But the facts are the facts, and everyone should be aware of them, so they're not led around like sheep accepting everything the politicians and public servants tell them. Some of them are oblivious to the damage their decisions have on the people they are supposed to be looking after. Maybe because they continue to get their salaries and are secure, that they don't think of the hardship being experienced by others. What do you think? Is the damage done from a severe lockdown worth it? Is it just delaying the inevitable? Can COVID-19 be contained? Should it be contained? It is a variant of a coronavirus and will continue to mutate. Should we just learn to live with it and hope for herd immunity? This is nothing new. A few centuries ago, when Europeans first visited the Pacific Islands in the Americas and introduced the common cold virus, much of the indigenous population died until their bodies adjusted and they built up immunity. There are parallels in what we're experiencing today, which is a new virus. It will not be the last time. Although the focus of this video has been about Australia, the principle to apply globally. If you think what I'm saying makes sense, then please share this video and let's get people thinking of COVID-19 in a practical sense without being dominated by fear. If you don't agree, then let's have your comments. I would very much like some feedback. Thank you.